I love you.
Hey, love you too.
I don't even know you that well.
No.
And I deeply, deeply love you.
I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the same.
Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for joining me on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? I wanna talk about why isn't everyone exploring their edges? Because to me, Mike Posner is a person who is willing to explore and expand his edges. Like, even in the time that I've known you, which is just a few years, which, by the way, I think it's kind of cool that we met in Antarctica, where you were not only performing your Grammy award-winning music, but also leading people in these powerful breathwork activations. And even in our personal interactions, like pushing your edges, like emotionally and spiritually and physically. And it's just so beautiful to see that level of bravery. And it doesn't even seem brave when you're doing it, because I think you have worked so long on experimenting with what it's like to just go one step further, one song more, one step further beyond where other people may have quit, where other people may have chosen safety. And so when did that start in you? Like, were you a little kid that was always like, I can do more, I can learn more, I'm willing to die to who I was to step into who I can become?
No, I wish it was like that. But mostly the urge to grow and expand for me is born out of often pain and a real deep-seated fear of mediocrity.
Okay, so let's just play that tape. Let's say you were mediocre. Let's say you were living a mediocre life. What's the fear there? What happens if you're mediocre?
I'm just not really interested in mediocrity.
What are you interested in?
Maybe fear was the wrong word. I know you're gonna fucking microscope that sentence so hard, but see, I'll be careful.
No. You can let it rip. You can let it rip.
I know. I'm teasing. For me, this is my experience of life. I basically have a choice between pushing the edges or withering away. If I'm not doing that, if I'm not growing in some way, and it doesn't always need to be a dangerous way. Sometimes it has been somewhat dangerous for me. I'm dying. I'm dying. Not the kind of death like some of my friends have had or family members have had, but like a sadder death where I feel like I'm dying inside.
Yeah, the slow one.
Yeah.
The slow atrophy.
Yeah. And so I think life has a way of reminding me when it's time for me to grow or learn something new or something isn't working for me, I need to change. And it often reminds me in the form of pain. So yeah, it's not always just like a magical carpet ride. It's like, oh man, this hurts. Why does it hurt? Oh, maybe that thing I'm doing is making it hurt. Maybe I need to change that. And so then I try to listen and grow in that direction.
And do you find that if you are leading with expansion, if you're leading with exploring the edges, so you're creating, do you find that there is less pain, that there is less of the nature sort of cueing you when you are proactively doing that expansion?
I think so. I don't have a ton of data points on it, and I think it'd be hard to control all the variables for such, but I do think that if you're not like moving in some direction or the direction you're supposed to be moving in, and who defines supposed to? I think like your heart or God, and I believe in God. I think God defines that. And so if you veer from that, I think God could elbow you in the side a little bit, to remind you to go back. If you don't listen to that elbow, maybe the elbow's a little harder, And so I think true happiness for me comes from growth. And I think growth from pain is like nitro fueled growth for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, that like God elbowing you, that's how I would define karma. I don't think that karma is like a bank account of like, oh, I did some good deeds, so I'm gonna get some good deeds back. I think it's like the rumble strips on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, my
That's a good
dharma is the
analogy.
freeway, and when I get off it, it's like and it gets rough. It's like, oh, I gotta wake up, I gotta
Yeah.
get back on my dharma. Or if you really don't pay attention, then it's like you run into the fence and you might have to like stop and call AAA or, you know, get a new car or something. How would you define God?
Hey, God, I would define God as life. With
Life.
a capital L.
Yeah, life. I would define God as the collective consciousness of all that is, like the thing that makes any of us animated.
Yeah.
It sounds like we have a similar,
That works too.
I mean, just same thing, just
Little
different.
like, I gotta say, like, you kind of like stunted over my definition.
Stunted over.
Yeah, yours was like really pretty.
Well, I talk about God professionally for a living all day, every day.
Me too.
Say more. Is your art
Yeah.
you talking about God?
Or repeating what the ideas God gives me.
Can you say
The
more about
melodies.
that? God gives you the melodies, like the songs are channeled.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, if you break it down, even if you take like a spiritual belief out of it, what's really happening when I write a song, I get an idea for a melody shows up in my head, or a lyric, or some form of a song idea. And I didn't put that in my brain or my consciousness. So what did? I mean, I don't think I deserve credit for a thing that just shows up. I didn't do anything, you know?
Well,
It
okay,
just pops in.
You might not have you might not have put it there, but I don't want to discredit the lifetime of work that you've done to be a channel, the lifetime of work
Thank
that you
you.
have done to show up for the muse to arrive.
Thank you. I don't want to discredit it either, because it was a lot of work. But the spark of the ideas continue to come not from any sort of effort or doing anything. They just show up. And so, I believe they come from my higher power, from God. And then I have to kind of like just try to get them out of here and out into the world. It's a very mysterious process when you think about it. I'm manipulating invisible frequencies to evoke emotions out of other human beings.
By the way, that would be my definition of magic.
Music is magic.
Music is magic.
For
It
sure.
is medicine. But like technically one of the definitions is the appearance of altering the course of events by working with seemingly supernatural forces. And like what you just described is like you're working with some supernatural force. It's this mysterious process of trying to get the purity of that transmission out into the 3D world, or I don't know, do you call music 3D? When if you can't see it or touch it. But the vibration is real.
Know. Yeah, the vibration's real, but you can't see it or you can obviously hear it, but
you can feel it.
It's invisible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a magician too.
A wizard.
You are a wizard. You're on the right show. Yes.
What? Okay, so how much weirder can we get?
Oh, a lot.
How much? Like on your weird scale, where are we?
For the show or in my life?
For the show. For the show.
I don't know. I wouldn't even call this weird. I would just call this exactly like what I want to be talking about.
Okay. I want to go further.
Let's go. Okay, so what's mysterious about it? What's magic about it? And like, how do you take that that download that comes and bring it in? Or what's the weirdest thing you've ever done to get it out?
Well, sometimes it says like kind of weird stuff.
Like what?
Uncomfortable things. Not in the form of the actual words, but an idea may come that is quite divorced from the ideas that have come before. Sometimes I'll have an idea for a song or an album that's like completely different from everything I've made before. What comes with that? Fear. Everyone's going to hate this. Like, people are going to think I'm a fraud. I can't try this new thing. Like, that's how I felt about a lot of my most popular songs, ironically. And I really try to just listen to what it says. I think that's what being a real artist is. Because if you start listening to the other voice, which I think is fear, you're not really an artist anymore.
What are you then?
I think
A performer.
You're more like a brand ambassador. Like you people, we have a lot of brand ambassadors. They create like they create a brand, and the brand is their name.
The persona.
Yeah, and then they make products in line with that brand, and that's their career. They stay within the guardrails of that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, I've probably spent some of my career within those guardrails, and then got kind of like kind of bored, like slamming my head against them. And I was like, maybe I'm just going to walk over.
This is why I wanted to talk about why isn't everyone exploring their edges? Because those guardrails became your edges. And you're like, F this. I'm going to bust out of that. Sweet friends, if you are loving this show, believe it or not, it is actually just the tip of the iceberg of what is possible. So if you would like to learn more about these teachings, if you would like to dive deeper into the world of Ziva and what is possible, I have a very special invitation for you. I'm going to invite you to go to zivameditation.com/email, and there you're going to get on my list. And this is where I share my most intimate learnings, my most profound transformations. This is also where you can go to get invited to our free live events and be the first to be notified when we drop a new podcast. So you can go to zivameditation.com/email to get the real juicy goodness. And this is also the best way for you to support this podcast. So zivameditation.com/email is where you're going to want to go to get in on the goods. I love you, and thank you for allowing this podcast to become a part of your journey. So can you share a time in your career or in your life where it felt the scariest to be like, oh, I am this, or people expect this. I've got this voice in my head saying something very different. And my allegiance is to the art. My allegiance is to this voice of life in my head. I'm choosing to do that. I'm choosing to explore this edge. Like, can you share a time that it felt scary?
Yeah, it's like one after the other.
Your whole. So what was like the scariest? So the one that you thought it might be the biggest failure?
Ironically, is like one of my biggest successes. My career started, I made music in my dorm room in college.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Duke University.
My ex-husband went to Duke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And to go back even further, I started making music when I was 8. No one particularly gave a fuck about what I was making until I got to college, and I was making these songs in my dorm room. And I made sort of like music that was like, man, it was all about like smoking weed and chasing girls. That was like pretty much the subject matter.
Which, let me just make a quick, I like to think that the best hedonists make the best spiritualists. And that we're looking for the same thing. And I would argue that you very much can find God in drugs and in sex. And so I just want to celebrate that version of you too.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That version of me got really popular. And
popularity can be powerful.
Yeah, he got really popular, and he started to make a lot of money, and he created this career around that version of himself. That version of me created a career out of him. That's getting very convoluted.
The many faces of Mike Posner.
Who am I again?
Nobody knows.
Where are we?
We are redefining it moment over moment.
And so then this funny thing happened, which was like I just stopped being popular. My career, like it really petered out. It really petered out. And I found myself alone in a home in the Hollywood Hills, kind of just with nothing to do.
About how old are you at this time?
I'm probably 24. Probably 24.
That's a tricky time.
Yeah, and maybe like
to
6 months before, I was parading around the world, like ripping my shirt off at concerts, crowd surfing. And then I'm just like, there's like my calendar's empty. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And people called me a one-hit wonder. and which was
what
true.
Was the one hit? It was the I Took a Pill and a Beat.
No, it was Cooler Than Me.
Cooler Than Me. Okay.
Yeah. If I could write you a song to make you fall in love, I would already have you up. Do you know this?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Thank you for singing for us.
You're welcome. And so I was like, fuck, what do I do now? And then I sort of like went back to, I guess, my artist first principles. Like, well, I still really like to make music, so I'm gonna keep doing that. Maybe I could use this time to get better at music. And so like you, I started taking singing lessons, and I didn't play instruments at the time. I learned how to play guitar and piano, and then I started getting inspired by different things. I got really into country music, and I got really into folk music, and I'm like growing a beard and like the whole thing, right? And I write this, basically I'm trying to write a country song, and that was I Took a Pill in Ibiza, the original version. And yeah, it's like, it's a singer-songwriter country song. But it was just so divorced from everything I made before. I was like, well, whatever remnants I have of a career left will surely be obliterated by me putting this music out, because it is completely different. I was like, maybe I should change my name and have a new, like, it was so different. I thought, like, maybe it's just a new career. And then I remembered this moment back. So now I'm 25, but I'm remembering a moment when I was 13, and I started rapping when I was 8, and I used to have rap names, MCMP, Acrimony, like these different names, and change them every 6 months or whatever. And when I was 13, I said, I'm going to make my artist name my name, because my music is inspired by my real life. I'm not like playing an act. And I remembered that in the empty house, and I'm like, this is me. And so I was like, man, fuck it. I put it out.
I find that some of the most magic happens right after saying fuck it.
Yeah. And ironically, this song was a song about my career petering out. It was about me having an empty schedule. It was about me not knowing what to do next. Everyone was writing songs about their rise to the top, and no one was writing about their fall from it. I was like, well, maybe that's interesting. At first, it didn't seem interesting to me because I had already lived it. It was like, oh, this is boring to me. And I was like, no one else knows this story. And so there's a line in it. It says, I'm just a singer who already blew his shot. I get along with old timers because my name's a reminder of a pop song people forgot. And I was referencing Cooler Than Me, my only hit song before that. And then ironically, this song started to become really popular, actually even more popular than the other one. And so I don't know, I think it's some kind of cosmic joke. You make a song about like being washed up essentially, and then it like unwashes you.
Well, because there's bravery in that,
or dirties you.
There's vulnerability in that. There's relatability in that, because we're all terrified that this will be the end. This is my last podcast, be my last time as a teacher. And so I imagine you were like striking a very universal chord there. I would like to talk about your meditation practice.
Oh, yeah, great.
And how your meditation has impacted your ability to explore your edges, and also how it's helped you to take that download of the voice from life, from God, and to bring it into the manifest. And so, like, what is your style of meditation? And I know you've done lots of deep retreats and done lots of solitude, and I don't know how many people know this about you. I don't know how public you are about it.
Yeah. I don't know if people, I don't keep it secret, but I don't know if people care.
I care a lot.
Thank you. I know you do. I took a class in high school, AP Lit, and we read The Hours by Virginia Woolf? And we learned about this thing called moments of being. And a moment of being is a moment where everything just makes sense. It's just like associated with the feeling of peace and presence, and everybody's had them. It's just a moment, where everything makes sense. And I've, for better or worse, kind of organized my life around having more of those. And meditation's been one way that I've either experienced them directly in the meditation practice, or it's created a space for me to experience them after or between the actual formal sitting or walking. So the basis of my meditation practice is TM. So I typically have 20 minutes twice a day set aside to meditate.
How long have you been practicing that style?
Maybe like 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure exactly. I can't remember the exact date I started. And then I tried different things. Like you'd say, I pushed the edges. So I've done a Vipassana retreat once, which I found incredibly challenging and incredibly rewarding, and definitely helped me walk across America for sure.
And so just for anyone who doesn't know, Vipassana is like 10 days silent, no eye contact, no reading, no writing, sitting for 10 hours a day.
All that stuff is easy except for for me was like, whatever, I could not talk. I could stop talking right now. I love not talking.
Just have a whole hour of silence.
Yeah. If you're like, Mike, I want to do an hour podcast where we don't speak, I'm like, sign me up.
Okay, that'll be the next one.
But the hardest part for me was like physically sitting 10 hours
I think
day.
that's the medicine, the pain that comes from sitting.
Without a doubt. And that's what helped me the most.
Oh, because it allowed you to push past the edge of pain when you were walking across the country?
No, it allowed me to distinguish between pain and suffering.
Ooh.
Which, you know the difference. Like, everyone knows, it's kind of like a basic...
I don't think everyone...
Level 1 spiritual principle.
Let's hear it. What is the difference between pain and suffering?
Well, pain is, first of all, it's mandatory. It's part of being alive.
Okay.
You can't be alive and not have pain
at
some point. And it's like the raw data. It's like the physical sensation of pain is real. Suffering is optional, and it is the mental stories and layers that may go on top of said physical sensation. So here's an example. I was walking across America, and I think I was in Ohio when my feet started to really hurt.
And where did you start? And how many days in are you at this point?
I started in the Atlantic Ocean at Asbury Park, New Jersey. So maybe I'm like 40 or 50 days in, like several hundred miles.
Whoa.
Yeah, it started to really hurt, as one would imagine. It like really bad. And as I'm walking, I noticed my mind started to... The pain was what I was actually feeling, and the suffering is what my mind started to say to me about the pain, about what I was feeling in my feet. It would say things like, "You're not even halfway, so the sensation you have now is only going to increase." It would say things like, if it does continue to increase, which it probably will, you're probably not going to make it. You're probably going to quit. You're going to look like an idiot in front of everyone. Like you tried this thing and you sacrificed all this stuff in your career and to fail. And like, and lastly, you're probably doing some kind of damage to your body that's permanent.
Yeah.
All of those things were suffering. Those were things my mind was just layering on top of just this sensation I was having. And so I remembered the practice, and I was able to go, okay, none of those things are real. Those are just mental stories. And I was able to keep going. And
in that moment, like, what was the practice from Vipassana that you were able to translate into that pain in your feet to help you to differentiate between the actual physical sensation and then the story that the mind was putting on top of it?
it wasn't a practice. It was just a remembering. It was a remembering of being on the meditation cushion on the retreat and the same thing happening, where it wasn't my feet, it was my back. It was just in all this pain. But after 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days of just sitting, focusing on my breath and the sensations in my body, over the course of the retreat, like I basically had no mental stories about anything. Like the mind got very quiet, and just the physical raw data of the sensations I was either touching, tasting, feeling, smelling, hearing, that's like kind of all there was. And so back on the walk, it was just a remembering of that.
Remembering of bringing your attention fully to the raw data, to the sensation that is at hand.
I remembered having this moment in the retreat where I felt pain and it just wasn't happening to anybody. Mike wasn't there. There was no one. There was no ego there. No one was home. And it didn't hurt. The pain was there, but it didn't hurt. Hurt was even like the first layer of suffering.
Oh. Is that because you had identified with something bigger than you, and so Mike wasn't really there to hurt?
Mike was not there at all. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You want to hear a Vipassana story from me?
Oh, yeah.
So I was...
Oh, yeah.
I did mine in India.
Do I?
I did mine in India.
I hope this involves dysentery.
It does not.
Damn.
But it does involve 10,000 dead ants. So I went to India, which, by the way, you do not have to go to India to do Vipassana. Like, you're just silent. No one's talking.
No, I went to Texas.
But I don't know why. It just felt fancy to me. I love India. So I went back.
Me
and
too.
by the way, I had been meditating for many, many years. I was already a meditation teacher. I was falling in love with the style of meditation that I taught. And it was more of an intellectual exercise of like, let me try something else. Like, I should probably do some market research. Like, it's hilarious to think about meditation competitors. But, you know, it's just like, what are the other styles out there?
Yeah, sure.
So anyway, day one, for the first 45 minutes, I'm on the front row and I'm sitting and I'm like, I bet they're going to see what a special meditator I am. I bet they're going to see how good I am at meditation.
Yeah, girl.
And I'm just like, oh, the teacher's going to really recognize, like, I'm just hilarious. And then by minute 46, I was like, certainly I'll never be able to walk again. Certainly I'm going to have to amputate my legs.
Yeah.
What if I have to go back to Broadway? I'm never going to be able to dance again. So I get, like, on the break, I get like another cushion. On another break, I get another cushion.
Yes.
By day 3, I'm like the princess and the pea.
Yep.
I've got like 45 cushions under my knees, just doing anything I can to absolve the outrageous searing pain in my legs and body. And then finally, like on day 3 or 4, the teacher like calls me over, and he's not supposed to be talking either. And he just looks at me and he goes, "Stop trying to not be miserable."
That's so good.
And I was like, oh, stop trying to not be miserable. Stop trying to not be miserable. And then I just surrendered to the pain. I was like, here I am. And I just felt the pain. And I stopped trying to fix it, and I stopped putting the stories and the suffering on top of it. And then it broke through to this transcendent, I was able to identify with something bigger than me. And then I started having these rolling waves of 24-hour-a-day orgasms, and it wasn't even sexual.
Damn. I missed that. Like, I'm going to the India Center. There's definitely a difference.
That might just be the Emily Fletcher Vipassana program.
No, I believe in myself.
Yeah, I believe in you too. But it wasn't even sexual. It was, but it was that moment where you're in orgasm, and it is le petit mort. It is the little death, because you're transcending yourself. You're connecting with all that is. And that is what was happening in a very pleasurable way, but not a sexual way. And that happened for day 6, day 7, day 8, day 9, day 10. And then the trick became, how do I not chase the pleasure? Right? And that's the like anicca, right? It's just that equanimity of don't avoid the pain and do not chase the pleasure.
Yeah.
And so I'm so impressed that you were able to take that visceral experience and then translate it into this superhuman feat where you were 100% pushing your edges and your feet, you're not even halfway and your feet probably feel like they're going to fall off. How did it feel when you made it to the Pacific and you got into the Pacific Ocean having walked all the way from the Atlantic?
It felt like the beginning.
Of what?
Well, I thought it was gonna be the ending, you know, and it just completely obliterated any guardrails, not just in my career but in my life.
What does that mean? Guardrails on what?
Well, I thought like when I was ordering from the menu of life, there was kind of like one page that I was ordering from. Like, man, I'm like Mike Posner. I write songs in West Hollywood. I'm like a nice Jewish boy.
I didn't know you were Jewish.
Yeah, not practicing, but by ethnicity.
Okay.
And that was like kind of it. And then I had this inkling, like maybe turn the page. Like maybe there's a back side of this page. So that was the walk. And then when I flipped to the other side of that page and I did the walk, I realized like there's 1,000 more pages. There's 1,000 more pages. Like I can order anything. And that's why it felt like the beginning. Beginnings hide themselves in ends.
That feels like a great title for a song.
It's a lyric in a song.
It is?
Yeah.
Which one?
Move On.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is why I wanted to explore this topic with you, because I think so many people are not only ordering from that first page of the menu that they've been dealt from their parents, from their grandparents, from their town, from their religion, from their body type, from their disability, from their sexuality or their race or whatever. And so to me, like, why I wish everyone was exploring their edges is so that they can see that the menu really is limitless. And so how has that changed your life? If you had to like sell people on the idea of exploring their edges and being able to order from an infinite menu of life experiences, how has that changed you? How has it changed your life? How has that improved your life?
In unimaginable ways. Most of which are internal. When I finished that first initial journey, I remember thinking about myself before I started. It took me 6 months, so I was just thinking of a version of myself 6 months before. And I was like, I didn't even recognize that guy. The depths that and potential that lie inside of each one of us is endless and unfathomable. And I've lived my life in a way to hopefully be a symbol of that for other people. I realize I'm not a symbol of that for all people. But that's why there's many other symbols that they can look at. But, you know, of all the things you listed that may confine a person, I think all of those actually exist inside one macro constraint, which is yourself. And one thing I learned on that first initial journey was the difference between reasons and excuses. Do you know the differences between a reason and an excuse?
Mm-mm.
You're right. There's no fucking difference. There's no difference when it comes to something that you actually care about. Almost always, your reason to not start or to quit is an excuse wearing fancy clothes. Almost always.
Okay, so like, well, I can't run the triathlon because I'm 44 and I have a 5-year-old son and I've never run a triathlon before. Those are all my reasons.
Yeah.
Those are all excuses.
Whole bunch of excuses.
Uh-huh.
And I had them. The moment that I first said I wanted to walk across America, it was a very unimportant moment. I said, I want to do that one day. What I know now is nobody gives a fuck about the thing you're going to do one day. Nobody cares because you're probably never going to do it. And even you know that. Here's the thing, man. Dreams have expiration date. Dreams are either growing into plans or they're withering into regret.
Ooh, let's say that one more time.
Dreams are either growing into plans or they're withering into regret.
Ooh.
And it's one of the two. There's no third option.
Yeah, energy either creates or it destroys.
Correct. And so the moment I said I wanted to walk across America was 5 years before I did. It was an unimportant moment. It was a, I'm going to do that one day. And then every year I would say, next year, I have to finish this album. I have to go on tour to support the last album. And it wasn't until I found myself in basically like unbearable existential stagnation and pain and confronted the death of my father and then 3 of my friends. Life elbowing me.
Those rumble strips on the road of karma.
Yeah. I mean, I was getting a little like off of into the ditch a little bit. That I realized like, hey, I'm either gonna do this year or I'm never gonna do it. I'm either gonna go live or I'm gonna die inside. Period. It wasn't an experiment. It wasn't a bucket list. It wasn't like a cool thing. It was my life. And so that's how I found myself on that journey. And the reason people don't explore the edges is because it's scary. I was really scared. I remember that there's a strategy to walking across America. Usually people start on the East Coast in early spring.
How long does it take on average?
You don't know.
Okay.
You don't know. So I had like 2 years blocked out. I didn't know how long it was going to take.
2 years?
It didn't take me that long, but yeah, on like the outside edge of like, I committed to doing it no matter what. I was about a month before I was supposed to start, and I was at this party with my friends and everyone was like drinking. I was the only sober one there, and I'm like getting ready to do the walk. And I said, I'm going to go inside to get a glass of water, and I'm walking, and I just walk, and I slam my foot. I'm barefoot. I slam my foot into the leg of the patio furniture.
Oof.
And I break my toe. It's like pointed sideways.
Oh no.
I had to like put it back. And it was just it was so interesting because every other time in my life I would look at something like that happening and I would say, man, this clearly wasn't meant to be. I'm about to go walk across America and I just break my toe. Like maybe this is a sign from God. Don't do this. It didn't occur to me that way. That's how my whole life played out. Before that, I was like, it wasn't meant to be, was just code for I'm giving up. And I say, you know what? This isn't a sign for me not to do this. This is just the first opportunity for me to quit. And there's going to be many more. There's going to be many more. The next one came getting ready to actually go. Because like I said, there's a strategy. You start on the East Coast. And I was in LA. So to get to my starting point before I walked across America, I had to drive across America.
Oh, wow. Why didn't you fly?
Because we had a support vehicle. And so we were
Oh.
moving it there. Like, I don't know if you know this, but America is just like really fucking wide.
Many thousands of miles, I've heard.
So we're just like driving and I'm looking out the window and we're scouting the route. I'm like, day after day, 70 miles per hour, and it just keeps going. I'm like, how am I going to do this? And it was terrifying.
That's a really good visceral, I think, like for anyone trying to conceptualize what it would be like to walk across America. Imagine a 10-hour road trip, a 10-day road trip, a month-long road trip, going 60 or 70 miles an hour, and then slow that all the way down to step after step after step for potentially years.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It was scary.
Yeah.
And I'm just sharing this story because going to the edge, how do you say it?
Exploring your edges.
Exploring your edges is scary.
Yeah.
And I just had all this doubt and uncertainty circling in my mind about, you know, if I could do it, if I was ruining my music career, if I was going to cause irreparable damage to my body. And it just circled and circled and circled until I stood in the the Atlantic Ocean, and I took a step. I took my first step, and then all that fear about what might happen dissipated because I was doing it.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned. Also, step one is take one step. Step one is take one step.
It's like my friend Sam Horn. She says, is it one day? I'm going to do that walk one day, or is it day one?
I love that.
Isn't that good?
That's dope.
Yeah, she's a great wordsmith. So you had an experience with a Navajo person. Do you know what I'm talking about?
That was a very deep moment, and the person that this story is based around has since passed on, so it makes it especially poignant.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew my route was going to take me across the Navajo Nation and some other reservations too, and I knew that from the beginning, and I just wanted to be really respectful there, and I didn't really know how to do that.
Thank you for naming that. That, like, if you don't understand a culture, it's hard to even know how to be respectful.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do that, so I called a friend of mine who I thought maybe could point me in the right direction. And basically, when I got to the Navajo Nation is big. It's bigger than most states. The path I took across it was 189 miles.
Wow.
And also, like, my understanding is the people there consider it another country. So you're like, yeah, when you get there, you're not in America. Anyway, so my buddy, he knew our friend Alex, who's Dene. Dene is the word they use themselves for their people. Navajo is like a white name that got put on them. And so basically when I got to Navajo Nation, my buddy Alex and their other friend Daniel, they were all there, and they're like, we're going to walk with you. We're going to stay with you the whole time. And Alex, man, I don't know what the word is for what he did. Maybe just taught me. But he stayed with me, and then I walked 6 days a week. I would walk 6 days and rest the seventh. And on the seventh day, Alex took us to his stepdad's house, and they basically prepared a ceremony for us. And the ceremony was really interesting. They have a structure called a hogan, And Alex, I can't remember exactly how he started it, but essentially we just said our names and who we were. I remember thinking about my name, Michael. It means who is God? It's a question. And I remember just sitting there. I was like, man, I guess that's kind of what I'm doing out here. I guess I'm asking that question. But the thing that made it so poignant was there was something about Alex's stepfather that really reminded me of my dad.
And had your dad passed at this point?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He wore like the same kind of shoes, and his legs looked the same. And I don't know why it just really got me. And I remember I was just in there. I was weeping. It was a really beautiful ceremony.
And what was the ceremony? Like, was it a sweat lodge? Was it a medicine ceremony?
No, it just said our names and who we were.
How many people?
5. All men. And I kept walking, and Al walked with us too a few days. And it took me 10 days to cross their land. I kept going after that. I walked across Arizona and a little bit of Nevada. I walked across California. And when I got to the beach at Venice Beach, he was there. Alex and Al, they were there. So it's just deep, some of the connections you make.
And what did it mean to you to see them there? How did that feel?
I felt loved.
Yeah.
He felt like he could call me son, My dad's left his body. But he said, I love you like a son.
Why do you think they came to meet you?
I don't know. I never thought about that before. And maybe that day and that time together was powerful for them too. One of the mistakes I made a lot on the walk was people would pull up on me and they'd come to walk with me, and because I had this programming of being an artist and being on stage and signing autographs, taking pictures with people, I often would start an interaction thinking like, what am I supposed to give them? And there was just so many times where the interaction was over. It was like too late. But I realized that person showed up not to get something from me, but to give something to me. So many times. And so maybe they came to the beach to give something else to me.
Yeah. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like in so many other cultures, there's initiation rites, and especially for men, there's an initiation from boyhood into manhood, and there's physical and spiritual and mental feats.
There's no teenagers.
Beyond what you thought you were capable of, and you did that. You initiated yourself. And I would even say beyond manhood, because it was beyond what Mike Posner was before. It was initiation into transcendence of identity. It was flipping that page on that menu. And I imagine that given the depth of their lineage, they probably understood the importance of initiation. And so if I had to hypothesize, besides you being incredibly charismatic and lovable, and maybe it was your dad working through them, there's a million possibilities. But I wonder if that was a part of it too, of just like wanting to support the rites of initiation and how powerful that is because you doing it, proving that it's possible to you, makes it possible for other people as well. Like we can't be something if we can't see it.
Yeah.
And so by them being there to support that, like, yeah, I love that you can see now that they wanted to give something to you versus anyone trying to get anything from you. Did it feel like an initiation for you?
Yeah, that's definitely why I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I felt that exact thing
Mm-hmm.
where I felt like I was 30 years old and I felt like a boy in a man's body.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, how do I become a man in a man's body? I'm like pretty sure I have to do something hard to make that transition. And really my life had been pretty good. Yeah, our society is pretty comfortable. In my life especially, I was pretty comfortable. So that was definitely
Except for your like self-imposed terror. I mean,
Yeah.
you love ice baths. You love, Wim Hof breathing. You teach breathing, breath work. And I know you've spent talk about solitude. Like we haven't really gone there.
Yeah,
Like don't
solitude's
you do
great.
months by yourself?
So no, solitude is easier than regular life.
Say more.
So I do these retreats sometimes where you basically go in this like little cabin and it's austere compared to how I normally live, meaning there's no like electricity or there's like a gas stove, but there's no running water. There's like a catch system and so it's like rustic and compared to my normal life. But all that's kind of just like camping. Like what makes it unique is that there's just nobody else there.
And what's the longest time you've ever done?
The longest time I've ever done is 21 days. I did it almost right after I came back from Mt Everest. And yeah, it's just awesome. It's like training wheels for life, because you realize if you're upset or annoyed or frustrated, like you're doing that. There's nobody else there to blame it on.
Damn it.
Which is always true, like 99% of the time,
I know, but I love
life.
Blaming other people for my problems.
Yeah, we all do,
It's so easy.
And so like after a few days, these sort of like mental patterns that I would run that make me upset or frustrated or sad or whatever, they just all become very clear. They're very clear and you kind of just work on stopping them and just being present. It's just like deep presence. But there's also, conversely, there's nothing there to distract you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's quite easy. It's easier, I think, for me to, tap into very, very deep levels of presence.
Mm.
And so that's why I say it's easier. Because it's kind of like training wheels. And the idea is that you go and you gain a foothold in your own being, in your own presence, and then you take it back into life.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started doing it, I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. I was like trying to do something cool that I could say I did. And then I realized, I read this by Thich Nhat Hanh, and it really like resonate with me. It said retreat is about re-entry. So the only reason you should ever go on a retreat or take plant medicine or do anything is so you can be a better version of yourself when you go back. Not for yourself, for me, so I'd be a better son, a better brother, a better better artist, a better member of the world.
Yeah.
And if you, at the end of your retreat, you didn't do that, you wasted your time. Definitively. Because it's not about going and having a wild experience. Those are cool, but they have to serve you in life. And
retreat is about re-entry.
Retreat is about re-entry. That's all it's about.
I mean, that's like, I think this will be on my tombstone when I die, is that we meditate to get good at life, not to get good at meditation. Like no one cares how many thoughts you're having when you're sitting there in the chair. It's like, are you kinder? Are you more clear on your mission? Are you more clear on how you can love yourself?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
And so when I asked you at the beginning, before we even rolled tape, we were probably secretly rolling, but when I asked you if you could install one code into the species, or if you could wave a magic wand over this conversation and people could receive one thing, you said unabashed, unapologetic, deep self-love. And so can you say why that's the thing? Like, and how have you practiced that in yourself, and why do you want that for others?
I said that's the thing because it's the thing I struggled with the most, and resultantly it's the thing that is making the most difference for me right now, working on it. I thought self-love was like getting myself a massage, and like that's loving my body. But I now look at it as a much deeper thing, and I really do believe the root of many, if not almost all, like problems that we experience in life is a lack of self-love.
Amen.
And it's a really fine line for me, especially because I have like a real like dog warrior part of myself, you know. I think
what does that mean? What does that dog mean? What does warrior mean to you?
It's just like I'm gonna fucking do this. Like it's
like a determined animal.
Yeah, determined animal.
So not like lustful. I'll be like, that man's a dog. Not like that.
No,
part.
Not like that.
No, like determination.
Yeah, and that part of me is like quite nasty. It may like manifest as like the opposite of self-love at times.
Like it's competitive. It will take other people out, or it'll take you out.
It will do whatever it needs to get the job done.
Well, that feels like just the shadow side of no matter what.
Maybe we got different names for it.
But like, I'm going to walk across the country no matter what requires that warrior part of you.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it feels like, you know, there is light and dark there.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And why I brought it up is like, I think it's a beautiful part that should be used strategically.
Yeah.
And shouldn't be running 24/7.
Yeah.
I was running it 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like everything, I just have this like impossible like bar I got to hit on every part of my life. And I'm like,
and is that because you didn't love yourself, that like maybe once I achieve all these things, then I'll believe that I am lovable?
I don't know, but I just know I've started working on loving myself, and life feels quite magical.
And how do you work on loving yourself?
I go in the mirror.
Okay.
And sometimes I have music on, earphones or not. And I say, I see you. And that's the first of many things I say. But when I first started doing it, that was enough.
I see you.
I see you. I appreciate you. I love you.
Mm.
And I'll say it until I believe it.
How long does that take?
Not that long.
Okay. Did it in the beginning?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
A little longer, but not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
A couple minutes.
Mm.
And then like I love Louise Hay, her book You Can Heal Your Life. She says fill in the blank, or complete this sentence. She says, I love myself therefore. So I find that in my head a lot, contemplating that. I love myself therefore.
And can you give us some examples of how you would feel that?
Yeah, like my friends are all going to a thing. I'm like, oh man, they all want me to go. And I don't want to go. And I love myself therefore. I'm not going.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm good.
I need that one.
You know?
Yeah.
Or other night we're at a party. I was tired, and I got shit to do in the morning. You know? Mm-hmm. Someone said to me the other night, they were like, "Oh, I was looking forward to." I was like, "I'm going to bed early tonight." They were like, "I was looking forward to turning up with you." I was like, "Will you meet me at 6 a.m.? We'll turn up." I'm up.
Do some breath work, do some cold plunge, do a workout.
But then I was at this party. I was like, I'm leaving it, and the person's like, "Oh, you're leaving already?" I said, "Yeah."
Was this New Year's?
No, this was Saturday.
Okay.
New Year's I left early too, though.
I know.
Yeah.
I
had
heard.
shit to do in the morning.
It's a big day. We got augury to do.
Dude, that Jan 1, I was up at 5.
I was up at 5 too, but I have been up all night long. And speaking of mirrors, I remember I was in Cabo for New Year's, and it was like an intense, like many nights, no sleep, drugs, the whole shebang, you name
Nice.
it. It was so fun. But by day 3 or 4 of that, I'm not maybe looking my best. And I went to the bathroom. And I'm by myself. I think I was on mushrooms, and really like looking at yourself in the mirror on mushrooms is like a real gamble, because like you're either going to
high stakes.
High stakes.
We were talking about high stakes.
We're either going to see the face of God, or you're gonna be like, oh no. And I was kind of like right in the
Have
middle.
you had oh no's?
Oh yeah.
In the mirror, mushroom mirror?
Yeah.
I never had one.
I did in this moment.
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
I interrupted.
Well, it was a both and, so I could simultaneously see the face of the divine and like, oh no. And I remember I just stood there just looking at myself, just like my jowls sagging, like dark circles under my eyes, like just like wrinkles, looking so pale, fluorescent light. It's like the sun's about to come up, so it's just that darkest right before dawn. And I just sat there and I looked at myself. And like usually when I look in the mirror, the first thing I do is fix something. Oh, I got to fix my makeup. I got to fix this. And I just like fix. And I was like, I wouldn't let myself fix. Like I almost had to like hold my hands by my side. And I was like, just fucking look at yourself.
Damn.
And like, don't fix anything. Like just see what you look like right now. And I just looked at it and I judged the fuck out of it. And I like hated it. And I hated the way I looked. And I felt guilty and ashamed of all of the not sleeping and the drugs and the sex. And then I was like, I love all of those things. I love my friends. I love doing medicine. I love having play experiences. I am actually very proud of all of the decisions that I have made. And I looked in the mirror and I just looked at it and I was like, I love you. You're 44 years old and you're aging and you're going to die and you look tired and I love you. You look like you have been partying for 3 days and you're beautiful. And I like managed to like see all of the things that I was judging and still like accept and love what I was looking at.
That's some deep mirror work.
It really was.
Maybe just like fire up some mushrooms tomorrow morning for my session.
Don't fix anything. Just see the God and the hell. See the heaven and the hell in your own face.
Man.
Yeah. But it's changed things. And now like
just that one session.
Yeah, just that one session. But if I had an New Year's resolution, it is, and I have not done a good job, so I'm glad I'm reintegrating this because, you know, the retreat is about the reentry. I just learned that. If I have a resolution, it's to when I look in the mirror to not fix. Like, or at least could I appreciate first before I fix anything about myself. Beautiful. So what do you say? You say, I see you.
Yeah.
I love you.
I see you. I appreciate you. I accept you. I love you.
I see you. I appreciate you. I accept you. I love you.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes me cry.
Of course. I'm going to start saying that to my son right now. When my son goes to sleep, I'm like, buddy, you are so safe. You are so loved. You are perfect exactly as you are. And I'm going to love you even more tomorrow.
Amen.
That's so good.
That's beautiful.
Is there anything you wish that I had asked you? Is there any story you're itching to tell that you think the world might not quite be ready for yet?
No. I feel good.
Do you feel energized like you just meditated, or do you feel depleted?
Yeah, I feel good. No, I don't feel depleted at all. Energized.
Great. I mean, you mentioned this briefly, but I just want to see if there's anything else. So, because the name of the show is Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? And I think we made a really good argument for why people should be exploring their edges, because then you get this limitless menu of what is possible.
Yeah.
And I think in so doing, you maybe learn to love yourself a little bit more.
Yeah.
But why do you think everyone isn't doing it?
Isn't loving themselves?
Isn't exploring their edges?
Oh, I think because it's really scary. Yeah, I touched on that. It's really scary. And it's not easy. And you really have to face your own fear. Fear of not, you have to, oftentimes it's the attachment to an identity, who you actually think you are, is going to die in the process. That's what happened to me. Who I thought I was gone.
Yeah.
Something better came in its place for sure. but it's not an easy process.
Yeah.
Always. And the edges, like, I like you made the distinction at the beginning, because often they're not physical. Often they're emotional edges, spiritual edges. And yeah, I just think like my biggest teacher last year was pain. And I was like, man, just look where it hurts. Like, if you want to change your life, just look where it hurts, Mike. Look where it hurts and ask, what am I supposed to learn about this? Why does it hurt? Who would I have to become to change this? Yeah. And that's like where I've gotten all the juice from, man.
I love that. Look at where it hurts, and who do I have to become in order to shift this? Yeah.
Yeah. And then you look back, you face like fear, discomfort, pain, another round of fear, discomfort, pain, more pain, and then just liberation afterwards.
Well, this is so interesting because we have a lot of mutual friends, and I reached out to some of them. I was like, hey, if
I heard you doing some homework on me. I was like, oh, shit. That's why I was a little scared coming out. I was like, she's got some fucking
I like
dirt
to
on
prepare.
me.
No, it's not dirt.
Yeah.
It's just like we want to
She's
get
got some
in there.
light on me.
That's right. I think a lot of people got light on you. But I said, I asked people, if you could ask Mike some questions, like, what would you ask? What do you think I should ask? And one person said, historically, a lot of his creation has come out of pain, but recently he's been creating from a place of, I feel great and I want to share this. And it feels like that's what the podcast is, your new podcast that's coming out. And so do you want to talk about that? Or do you want to talk about this, like, I'm creating to accentuate and to evolve versus like creating to move out of the pain?
It just feels like part of my duty, or my what do you call, is it dharma?
Responsibility? Dharma, sure.
I think I was going for dharma. That's the one I want to say.
Yeah, you're looking for dharma, of like your responsibility, like your mission. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad we clarified
quick Sanskrit lesson.
Another quick aside. Right back. It just feels like part of my journey now. I've had some really deep and beautiful, unique experiences that I recognize as gifts. Mm-hmm. Truly. And I've stumbled upon some answers that have made a difference for me. And I just want to share them. And so I have a healthy tension in my life between being a student and a teacher. I'm still a student. I'm learning new things all the time. I was doing a class yesterday online.
What were you taking a class in?
It was this class all about the root chakra.
Hey.
It was like 3.5 hours about the root chakra.
What did you learn? Can you give us a little Cliff's Notes? That's my jam.
Okay, this is what I learned. I'm a student, so now you're making me make the transition quite quickly.
Yes, that's right. Teach A.
This is what I remember. It's the chakra that's associated with stability and safety and security and groundedness. And so if you have an overactive root chakra, then you try a bunch of things, but you don't finish them, or you abandon them too quick. Mm-hmm. Like, you're dating someone, but you're always thinking, this probably isn't the person. There's another person out there. Or you're in business and like try a venture and then you abandon it for another thing. You never see things through. Conversely, you have a underactive root chakra, and then you just are like scared to try things because you're not grounded, and it feels like it probably won't work out anyways. So you want like a balanced, open root chakra that I manifest as security and groundedness, and feeling like, I'm home. I'm arrived. I'm
cool.
here. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for that. So you're saying you have this balance between student and teacher, and it feels like
quick aside on the root chakra.
And now you're creating from this place of wanting to accelerate, and the podcast is sort of like you sharing your lessons with the world.
Yeah.
Is it just you as a solo podcast?
No.
Not that I'm trying to invite myself or anything.
No, you should definitely come.
Hey-o.
You should definitely come. I do solo episodes where I'll share some kind of distinction or thing I learned that made a difference for me, and then I just interact with the listeners.
It's live?
They're live with me, but then we publish it like a few days later.
Okay, so you have people like live streaming in, and then you share
it.
Okay.
Yeah. And
cool.
that's it. And then I sprinkle in where I have guests, and then we do the same thing.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm sure if you came on, people would have tons of questions that you could help them with.
Fun.
Yeah.
What's it called?
The Mike Posner Podcast.
Easy.
You know why I picked that?
Because your name is that's like your artist.
No, it wasn't
is your
that
name?
deep. I just like the double P Posner Podcast.
I fucking love alliteration.
Alliteration.
Head, heart, hoo-ha.
Really gets my dick
mindfulness,
hard.
Meditation, and manifesting. Speaking of hoo-has. Mike, I love you. I'm sure that everyone listening to this has already fallen deeply in love with you. Where can people find you?
Oh, they can find me on wherever they listen to podcasts.
Okay.
And
the Mike Posner Show.
Yep.
All over the podcast platforms.
I'm on social media. Let's define on. There's someone on my team that posts for me.
Okay.
But I write the posts.
And you're in the videos.
I'm in the videos.
A lot of cold plunge content.
But I don't have the apps on my phone, thank God.
Good job. I need to get to that stage.
And I'm also on Spotify and Apple Music.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you made an amazing song. This is what a sad song sounds like with our friend. And the video you did with our friend Daryl. So good.
Oh, yeah.
It's so
that
good.
That was a blast.
Yeah. Everyone's got to check that out.
That was really
this is
fun.
What a sad song sounds like.
You can keep going?
No, you go.
No,
I like to sing with you. I'm much better as a duet artist.
Yeah. No.
This is what a sad song sounds
This is a new beginning for you. There you go.
The thing, I also have a bit of lyric amnesia. So.
It's okay. I didn't expect you to have the
But there was a time
memorized.
in my life where I knew every single lyric to that because I listened to it all the time.
Really?
Yeah, so
what?
good. So good.
I'm honored.
I watched the video many times.
Really?
I haven't watched a music video since I watched MTV in high school.
Thank you.
It's great. It's
Thank
so
you.
great.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fucking fun.
Yeah. All right. I love you. I could talk to you all day, but I'm sure you have things to do. Mountains to move, mountains to climb,
Let's
countries
go.
to walk across, new
Let's
Mike
go.
Posners to become.
We gotta go share the light.
And may we all do that. May we all push our edges enough to where we are able to step into a version of us that is able to receive so much love from the divine that we radiate it out and become a living, walking darshan to everyone that we are in contact with. Mike Posner, you do that with your music. You do that with your presence. You do that with your teaching. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to say thank you to all of you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Why Isn't Everyone Doing This? I am quite sure you have fallen in love with Mike as much as I have. So if you love this episode, you can give us a 5-star review. You can take a screenshot of it, share it on social media. Mike's assistant's going to love it. It's at Mike Posner on Instagram. I'm at Ziva Meditation, and I will see you next week on Why Isn't Everyone Doing This?